Hey, what's going on, y'all? We're back. How they say it in the in the country churches, the devil is busy. Now,
Yes.
Facebook was tripping a little bit. They temporarily blocked the other video. So luckily we can still pick up where we left off though. In the country churches, the devil. So essentially where we are right now, Nicole and I were basically discussing our relationship with our recently deceased dad. And there were, obviously our relationship or our experience with him is completely different. Nicole and I did not grow up in the same household. As a matter of fact, I think it was not until elementary school that we even discovered that, well, my elementary school years, that we discovered that we were even siblings. And it takes a lot of healing to really get to where Nicole and I are now, because there were a lot of tough conversations that we had to have. And I was kind of skeptical about having those conversations because Nicole's a daddy's girl, so I didn't want to, for lack of a better term, shit on the legacy that he left in a relationship that they had. But I also had to be honest, and luckily she was very receptive, very welcoming, and letting me know that it was okay for me to feel how I feel, because no one can know people. The thing is, when he first passed away, people wanted to tell me how I should feel. You should feel this way because of that, or it's okay to feel that way. But unless you go through it, you really can't tell people how to feel in this particular situation. But I'm thankful that Nicole allowed me, the luxury of really uh, being transparent with my feelings and letting her know how I felt, shafted, or how I felt rejected, or just a lot of emotion swirling around. And now that I'm a parent, I do understand how difficult parenting can actually be. But as a kid, you don't understand that. You know what I mean? Because before we got cut off, Nicole and I were talking, and I was telling her about how, because we all lived in the same neighborhood. It's kind of, but we know how that go. As we know, Pops was a player because he had a woman on that street, and then that street. So,
Mhm.
but they when he would go, her mom lived on the street behind my mom, and there'd be times where he would go to see Nicole, and he passed by my house in a little red car. Then they pass, going, and I'm just sitting there and I see it. And you, as a kid, you can't help but feel rejected in that situation. And it did bother me. It did hurt, obviously. And those are conversations that when Nicole and I got older, that we were finally able to have. So you care to shed some light on that, Cole?
Yeah, definitely. Allowing, when you said that, just allowing you to share, because as you know, me and Poppy were very, very close. We were very, very close, and we didn't grow up in the same household. So allowing you to share how you felt, I think that's the first step to healing. Because you see, just wasn't about me; it was about you also and his other children. Everyone has have a different relationship with him. So I wanted you to be honest about your feelings, because in that, I wanted you and I to have a relationship. And we couldn't have a relationship if I'm all happy and you're still struggling, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So, how can we say, well, that's my brother and I love him, and we want to build this legacy for our children and their children, but without allowing you to say, well, Cole, I didn't have that. So, I can't identify with that. For me, it's like meeting, you know how they always say meet people where they are. It's like
Mhm.
we met each other in the middle.
Yeah,
We met each other where we were,
yeah.
and we were able to share. We were able to share. You were able to be honest and open about how you felt about Poppy, and I was able to share things with you. And even though we both have a different story, but at the end of the day, we're going to make our story great, because this is not how our story is going to end. This is just a piece of it.
Mhm.
So by you sharing, you're being honest with your feelings, and I'm there with you, not getting upset, allowing you to feel how you, because see, you lived through that.
Mhm.
You lived through that. You experienced that. So I'm not going to be selfish and say, oh, well, I didn't experience that. No, you're my brother. You came from my father. We shared that common goal. Like we had the same father.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's more powerful than anything. And love can conquer all. Love,
Absolutely.
love can conquer all. So even before we got to this state with Poppy, and Poppy passing away, you and I was always close, but now it's like we're even closer. But we were
Right.
always close. We would talk, you would call and talk to Justice. Like I said earlier, you and Justice, like y'all are best friends. Like, okay, but he's my brother, but he's my uncle, but you and Justice are always talking on the phone. So it's like we're healing and we're coming together. And I love that. I love that. And I love when you're honest with me, but you're an honest person up front. So that's
Yeah.
just your makeup. You're just gonna tell people how you feel, and I love that about you. That's what makes hook hook. So
But it's weird because I wasn't always that way. Like before, like growing up, like and I was really reserved with my feelings because my dad not being around like that, it truly did impact me. You know what I mean? Like because there was some feelings of like like I said earlier, rejection a little bit. I mean, even though he never said I don't want you. You know what I mean? But it was just not really knowing the full story. But I guess and I guess a lot of people don't know, like you and I, this ain't just some fly by night type of deal. Ain't like we just started talking when he passed away. Like we've been talking over the years. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And then when he moved up there to Baltimore with you, we started talking even more because I'll call, check on him, make sure y'all okay. Because I knew it had to be just taking care of him day in day out had to be rough on y'all. So um, but it's one of those because I before the first video got cut off, I kind of shared that our situation is not unique. So we are not, you know, the only siblings who share one parent who are going through this. You know what I mean? But I want our story to be. My takeaway that I want people to get from this is, you can have that relationship, you can build that, but you have to be willing to listen to the other person. And I think that was huge for me, for you to even, because I'm like, when you would say Poppy this, Poppy that, Poppy this, Poppy that, I'm thinking, you know, I didn't have any of that, right? So I think the first conversation we had, I wasn't scared, I was a little nervous simply because I'm like, I don't want her to think that I'm bashing him or talking bad about him. But at that point, it wasn't about him. It wasn't about you. It wasn't about any. It was about me and my feelings. And I've never been a selfish person, but I had to be selfish in that situation. I said, well, Cole, you had that relationship with him. I didn't.
mhm,
I said, he was a father to you. He was my father, but can I say that he was truly a father to me? I really can't. You know what I
right.
mean? But like I was saying earlier, and my biggest regret, and that's why I think I really broke down at when we went to view his body. Like I didn't like when he first passed away. I'm like I didn't know how to feel. Like what I mean. I'm like yeah, I probably won't cry. But when I saw him laying there, it's like everything came rushing to me. I'm like, we'll never get to have. We made our peace because we started talking more, but we never had that conversation. I never got to say, Pop, this is how you made me feel. This is, something that I missed out on. This is what I wish you would have done. We'll never get to have that now because he's no longer here. Um, so that's probably my biggest regret. But he got to the point where, like I was saying earlier, like on birthdays, he'd call, and be like, who you talking to? You know what I mean? So, we'd be having conversations and stuff like that. He'd ask about Zoe. But, I don't know what it is about the generation that came before us, but they're not really big on, I guess, apologizing, saying, "Hey, I'm sorry," but they do things to let you know that they had there is some remorse there. Um, but I guess now that I'm a parent, I do understand that there's no such thing as perfect parenting. Like
Right.
there's no book that's written that's going to tell you this is how you should parent. And I think that's one of the things that made it easier for me to really forgive everything. Primarily because I'm like, when you're a child, you think as children do, but as an adult, I didn't know. It got to the point where whatever the true story was, I just didn't care anymore. I just wanted to, forgive, because I guess having resentment is like drinking poison, hoping the other person dies. So
Right.
it wasn't hurting nobody but me. So I let the resentment go, and what helped really cool, and I'm forever grateful to you and the girls and Kai for this, but it's like, but us having the relationship that we did made it a lot easier. Now, if you and I were butting heads and weren't talking as much or something like that, it probably would have been hell, just trying to deal with it. But because you allowed me that space, you gave me, that platform to say, you're like, just say how you feel, and I'm like, okay, you want to hit, here you go. So but it's just for me to be able to tell you the ways that I was hurt by our relationship, me and Paul's relationship, or lack thereof, that it truly was profound. It truly meant a lot to me. And I know that couldn't have been easy for you to hear, because again, we know how you feel about Pop. So, but just for you to even, and I think that's the problem with a lot of relationships. People want to tell people how they feel, but they don't want to listen, especially if it's something that they think is going to hurt them.
Right. And giving you that space is that's what that's it was like, how could I be selfish and not to? You understand what I'm saying? How can I be selfish and deny you to be honest about Poppy and your feelings with him? Because in that case, it's like I'm only thinking about myself, and that's very selfish. Because not only did I want you to heal, but I wanted us to heal together.
Mm-hmm.
Once I realized that we had so much in common,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, like we were literally raised in the same house, and that was scary to me. Like when it comes down to our children, and they have the same allergies, and they're allergic to the same exact things, and you and I crave the same foods. Like it was like, how can I not? I
Right.
wanted you to be honest. I wanted you to share because I wanted my brother to be whole. I wanted us to have a relationship where we can sit back and we can smile and we can laugh and we can explain to our children and their children, and they can grow up to be, they don't have to carry that hurt, because sometimes, when children, when they're hurting when they're young, they grow up to be hurting adults. And then
Absolutely.
we tend to pass that on. And then there's the generational curses. And then, but what we're doing is we're breaking that.
Absolutely.
We're breaking that together. And that's what mattered to me the most. Like we're breaking that together. And God does everything so well. Like even when he passed, like, and you and I, we talk all the time. And when he took his last breath, you called my phone. You were the first person to call. And remember what I said to you? I was like, why did you call me? You remember that? And I was like, right. And I'm like, wow. Like the significance in everything that God does, even the time when Poppy was here and the times that like you said, you will call and you would say, do you need anything for him? I mean, that meant so much, and he could hear that. But the love that you have, even though he wasn't there for you as you were growing up, but look at what you did before it got to the end, not the end, because he was up here for 3 years. So from the moment I told you I was going to get him, you was like, do you need anything? Is there anything I can do? Let me know what it could do. At that moment, I knew your healing had begun, and I was excited for that. I knew it wasn't going to be an overnight process, and it's still not. But the more you and I talk and we share, we both are being healed. And
Absolutely.
so look, I'm like, just vent it out, Hope, because I don't want you going home and be like, man, I want to tell Cole this, but I didn't want Cole to get upset. I'm not going to get upset, because if I love you how I say I love you, I mean that. Like, I literally mean that. I
Yeah.
mean that.
Yeah. And Monica made just reading Monica's comment, she made a couple of good points. Like, that whole half sibling thing, that's not how I operate. You know what I mean? I don't do half anything. You know what I mean? Either we're related or we're not.
Mhm.
So I don't view you any differently than I view Tree and Terrence. I truly don't. Even though the two of them and I grew up in the same house, like when I talk about you, I don't say my daddy daughter, I don't say my half sister. I'm like Cole, my sister. You know what I mean? So I don't do half anything, because to me, family is family.
Yeah.
And in terms of even when he passed, I told you that the primary reason that I was going to go down to Allendale on that Friday is to support you and to make sure you were okay. You know, I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. They're like, you know, like, and people may think that this is like a fly by night type of deal. Like, oh, well, he just, no, I didn't know. Like, we talk all the time, even leading up to it. Even when you gave me the diagnosis, you said, well, you know, they've given him X amount of time to live. And I kept telling you, I'm like, man, don't believe. I'm like, he gonna probably be here a little bit longer than we even expect. So, like, when I would talk to you, you know, I wasn't gonna call you and be like, he's still here, he ain't gone yet. You know what I mean? It would be more so
But
like, how's he doing? You know what I
yeah.
mean? So just giving you that reassurance. And I think that people need to hear this, because, you know, death makes people crazy, and death
Hmm.
makes people, death brings out, in some cases, the true, I guess, the true personalities and who people truly are. And people may have thought I was hanging around for other reasons. But little do they know, like, that's the furthest thing from, we don't even talk about that. And I would tell you, I was like, look, I don't even want to know. I don't want to know. I don't care what he left. I don't want to know what he left. You know, whatever. They ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, whatever you guys get is because, and I look at everything just at when Kai and Justice and Lyric and all them, they were saying all the things that they had to do. Like, even there were things I didn't know about. I'm like, man, I didn't realize they even had to do all that. So y'all really had to put your lives on hold, on pause, to take care of him. And that meant, I'm sure that meant the world to him, because, you know, you made the last 2 to 3 years of his life memorable. You guys would be doing TikToks and videos and dance and everything. And just seeing him smile did me all the justice in the world. But, you know, you don't have to, you know, people don't understand, they don't want to understand about genuine love, which is what you and I share. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's no, and I think a lot of it has to do with the way that our relationship came about, because it's not the conventional brother sister type of relationship. First, we had to
Hmm.
find out that we were siblings. Then we had to get over the whole awkwardness. You know what I mean? Like I was saying earlier, when we first found out, and we'd be at this house together, you be looking at me, I'm looking at you. You know,
Right.
like who is this person? You know what I mean? But we had to get over that. And, you know, just about building that relationship, fostering that relationship. People really don't know. I like, and trust me, with this thing that we're doing, they'll soon learn, about just how truly, you know, beautiful, just us forming this relationship is. Me getting, you know, to know all, you know, your kids, you know, my nieces and nephews, just being able to build that relationship with them, even though, you know, I didn't have that with Pop. Like, this is my opportunity to carry on that legacy, because at this point, you know, we are not responsible for the situations that we're born into. You know, I
Right.
didn't come into this world hoping that, you know, about, you know, in the ideal situation, I would want my dad to be there, but it happened this way for a reason. You know what I mean? But it's about how we manage these earthly relationships. You know what I mean? And, just making sure that it's about doing the right thing, you know, at all times. And it's not easy. It's actually, it was quite difficult. It's getting easier now, obviously. But just, you know, with him passing away the way he did, with us going, with me going down, making sure you guys were okay, and just a lot of things that happened that entire weekend. Um, it was God's will that I be there with you, that I be
Hmm.
there for you, most importantly. No matter what the situation was, or no matter how everything came about, it was my job to take care of y'all.
And like I said, everything is just how God just lines everything up, you know. Um, I remember when we was at Aunt Thelma house, and Val said that I think it was you, Lonzada, maybe Keith, and she said y'all were walking through his yard, through Pop's yard,
Mhm.
and because they hadn't told, you know, I guess it was a secret with the adults. And Val said she came in the house saying, "It's a boy that just walked through the yard, just like Uncle T." Like who's like who is that? Like just by you walking through his yard, and
Mhm.
that's when they was like, "Well, yeah, T got a son," you know. But back then, they kept everything on the hush hush. It's like, well, it's a secret. It's a secret. And I think what you and I are doing is like we're breaking those generational curses, because sometimes, people just didn't, I guess back then they probably they didn't want to air it out. I mean, you and I, we joke about it. Now we'd be like, well, okay, well, Poppy he had you, he had me, and they were like, what, a street over from each other. We
Yep.
laugh about that now, but I guess back then it was just like, okay, everything was just hush hush until somebody brought up this conversation. And like you said, when I saw you at Poppy's house, I'm looking at you like, because he never said,
Mhm.
Cole, this is your brother. Like he never said that to me. Like, I was
Mhm.
like, okay. And you used to be there, and I'm looking at you like, and you used to say, oh, I just came for a quarter. And I'm like,
a quarter, a quarter was a lot of money back then. I don't know what you're talking about.
so I'm thinking, honestly, I was like, well, that can't be my brother. He asking for a quarter. So, but as we got older and we found out, I just wanted, even in high school, I just wanted to know more about you. I just had that longing to know more. I was like, okay, that's my brother. So I want to know about him. I want to know about him. And I wanted to know, like, and I used to always come around to your mom's house, and she probably said, what is the girl coming around here for? But I just wanted to know. I wanted to know. I wanted to know, because I just felt that even back then we didn't know it, but we had that connection.
Hmm.
We had that connection, and it's growing, and it's multiplying, and we're producing positive things. Not that everything's perfect, but the conversations that you and I have, Hook, I mean, literally, they will be on like what, Fix My Life or something like that. But
Right.
literally, you see what I'm saying? But by us just really coming together and being honest and open, I think that's why we're healing and we're helping and we're loving each other the way we do, because we're honest. And you can't heal without being honest. You can't love properly without being honest with yourself and others.
Right. And you have to be, and that's why I said I'm so thankful that you gave me, you allowed me to vent to you the way I did. You know what I mean? Because it was, I'm telling you, like, just because I didn't seek therapy necessarily for that specifically, but I did seek counseling simply to you know heal myself from there a lot of childhood trauma. Obviously, that was definitely part of it. So, and I think that it allowed me I really got to see how it impacted me. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not having a dad there, day in, day out, not being able to do certain things, and having that sense of that feeling of rejection, and really not, I wasn't whole. You know what I mean? Like, it was so, I was angry, I was mad, like it, but I just didn't know how to articulate that. I couldn't, and I think Diane made a comment earlier about me being shy. Yeah, I was extremely shy, but I think the thing of it is like, I really didn't know how to articulate how I felt, because back then we were taught, boys don't cry, be a man, and you can't really show emotion. So there, I internalized all that, but it wasn't doing nothing but hurting me. You know what I mean? So there were a lot of feelings of insecurity, a lot of feelings of not belonging, of not just not feeling whole. And it it hurt, like it truly did. But now, I think that they say God gives His hardest test to His toughest soldiers. I think that that's something that I had to go through, because now I'm all the better for it. Am I completely whole? No, not by a long shot. But at the same time, I've learned. Um, I've grown, um, and I didn't know what feelings I was going to experience when he passed, because I'm like, you know, you went, because when that, like you said, when he took his last breath, I just happened to call you at that exact same moment. It's kind of weird how things work out, and so I was comforting you at that point, but I still wasn't trying to. I wasn't worrying about my own feelings. I'm like, well, let me make sure Cole okay. Let me make sure Cole okay. It wasn't until we went into the funeral home and viewed the body, where I just looking at him laying there, and it's crazy because we look so much alike. I'm like, I'm sitting here like, I don't even know what happened, and the emotion just came out, and I'm like, I guess all the regrets that I had, they really started pouring out at that time. I'm like, I should have had this conversation with him. I should have told him how I felt about how he made me feel by really not being there for me. We made our peace, but we just never really had that conversation. And that's something. I mean, at this point, like because he's gone, we'll never have that conversation. Um, but even with that, even the way that all of that came out, like with the relationship that you and I are fostering now, the relationship that I have with your kids, the relationship you have with Zoe and my family, it's I think that we had to go through all those things to get where we are. And it's still tough because there are times when I think about it. I'm like, I really wish I would have had that conversation, but I'm okay though. You know what I mean? Like I like there's regret, but it's yeah, I think that especially when in the latter stages of his health, and I knew he was declining, I knew we would never get to have that talk. But I said, well, you know what? I got to be there for Cole. I got to be there for the kids. I gotta make sure they're okay. I gotta, that's why I would call. Like, I know y'all got tired of me calling y'all because it was like every single day. I'm like, y'all good? Like, y'all good? Is everything okay?
But
Let,
you called even before it got to that point. You understand what I'm saying? And he knew that, So we didn't know when, as you know, like when Poppy came to live with me, um, it was like, okay, we were just doing what we do, and our God is just so real with everything. And I remember back in November, because I got him in 2019. So I had a dream about him one night, but I used to talk to him almost every day. So I didn't really think too much of the dream. I was just thinking, oh, I'm just dreaming about Poppy. I didn't really think too much about it.
right.
The second night I went to sleep, I had another dream about him. And I was like, no, wait a minute. Let me call him. And I remember, Hook, I woke up 6:30 in the morning and I called him. And he was up and he said, "Oh, why are you calling me so early?" I didn't tell him about my dream. And I was like, "Poppy, are you okay? Are you really okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay, Cole." But I knew. I was like, mm-mm. And I was like, I know God is speaking to me.
Hmm.
But that third night when I had that dream, I literally got up the next morning. I literally jumped out of my sleep and I said, I got to go get Poppy. And I literally got on the road to go get him. And from that moment until everything, it was like God was just preparing us and he was, even you and I, making us, we became close. We were already close, but it was like during that time when he had his health and, we were close because you would call like every single day, either FaceTime and Justice or I'll come in and say, oh, Poppy did this today or, and just really just sharing everything with you. But everything that we're doing now, we're just breaking those generational curses and we're giving our kids that strength to walk in their power, to know who they are and where they come from. I think that's the best gift that we're going to give them. And what we're giving each other, Hook, is loving each other and allowing you and myself to be honest with our feelings. When you told me, you said, I can't relate to that. I understood that. When you said, Cole, you're a daddy's girl. I never had that experience. I wasn't upset about that. I wanted to give you that space. I wanted to help you create that space and say, Hook, I understand, and just tell you that I love you and we're going to get through this together. And that's what we're doing now. That's what we're doing now. Like you said, what I want people to get from this is just learning to love each other and meet people where they are. Because you and I, we had to meet each other in the middle. Like,
Hmm.
because here I was a daddy's girl. Here you are, like, okay, well, I never had that relationship. So you could have been like, man, forget it. I never had it. I don't want nothing to do with them. They fine. And I could have said, you know what? Well, okay, well, I know Poppy, he don't, just being honest, But no, we were willing to put our feelings aside
Hmm.
and meet each other in the middle and talk like adults.
Absolutely.
talk like hurting adults, talk like
Because
angry adults, because those things have to take place. It have to take place.
I think that ignoring the situation and just saying, "Well, he wasn't it for me, so I ain't gonna," I think that's taking the easy way out. It's easy to be resentful, and it's easy to, you know, hold on to that hurt, but it wasn't hurting nobody but myself. The first thing I had to do was I had to let that hurt go, and it was easier than I thought because growing up, I'm like, man, he ain't doing nothing for me. I don't care. You know what I mean? That was kind of my attitude. But then growing up, or maturing, especially after Zoe was born, I'm like, that's not the legacy I want to leave. You know what I mean? And because once you become a parent, you do understand just how difficult parenting can be. Because there is no, and as parents, we make mistakes all the time, and I don't know, why he did or didn't do certain things. And at this point, honestly, it really doesn't matter. Because I all I can do is move on,
Yeah.
um, from where we are. But again, you are a huge part of why I was able to move on. You made it easy. You made it so incredibly easy for me to forgive because you allowed me that space to tell you how I felt. Like it wasn't. And I think people don't get that a lot. People, they don't want to offend people. I think just us as just the black community period, we hold
Mhm.
things in. We don't really say or give people the space to say how they felt. Like me personally, I'm okay with you telling me the truth about anything, even if it hurts my feelings. Like your feelings matter, so I want to know how you felt. You know what I mean? So, but for you to sit here and knowing you're a daddy's girl now, and listen to all the things I was telling you about this man who you love dearly, like just saying this is how I felt, and you don't understand how I felt, and I'm like, well, let me calm down. I ain't mad at Cole, so let me reel it back in a little bit. You know what I mean? But you allowed me that space to be like, you know what, this is how he made me feel. This is why I felt the way I do. This is hard. This is difficult. You don't even understand, what I went through, because he was always there for you. But for you to, and after, it's crazy because as soon as I said it, I felt so much relief, and it's
Yeah.
like the weight of the world just left off my shoulders, and I think it was at that point where I 100% forgave him. Like I'm like, it don't even matter at this point. I'm like,
Mhm.
and that's and with because again, you and I have always had a relationship, but I think that after we had that conversation, that only strengthened our bond that much more.
Right. And we need it. And the beautiful thing is about it is that we had it way before he got sick. You see what I'm saying? Like we had it way before, and just listening to you, because I heard you on the phone and you was just yelling and screaming, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna let him have his moment. And I was like, I definitely, I literally had to like put myself in your shoes, because it's so easy for us to be like, oh, well, walk a mile in my shoes, or you couldn't do this, or you couldn't do that. And so I really wanted you just to walk out how you were feeling, walk through all of that, because I knew that if you didn't get all of that out, then you and I couldn't have a pure and honest and strong relationship. Now we
Mhm.
could see each other and be like, oh, hey, that's my brother or that's my sister, but
Mhm.
it wouldn't have been genuine.
Exactly.
Like when we come down, like you offer us to stay at your house, it wouldn't have been any of that.
Mhm.
Oh, well, that's my sister. Yeah, we share the same father. But
Right.
I wanted more than that. We both wanted more than that, because like I said, we had so much in common. Like it's scary. Like I said, even with our children, like Zoe and Ayana have the same allergies. Like
Mhm.
you and I crave the same foods. It's like, what? Wait a minute. This is just too much. It's like, what? So that and having those similarities and just having that love, it just made me want to know more, made me just, okay, Hook, let's plan this. Hook, let's do this. Let's just get to know each other more. And with our children, man, and healing, like you said, we're not, it's so many people that share the same story and that probably could relate. So what we want to do is just want them just to start walking in their healing and walking into forgiveness and be able to listen, to the other person. Just be able to listen, because like you said, I grew up with him. You didn't. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm able now to relate to you, because back then I couldn't, because Poppy was just, to me, regardless of what he was to anybody else, as you know, to me, I was like, he's the best father ever, and I can say that with you with such ease. You see what I'm saying? I don't have to walk on eggshells when I'm talking about him with you, because we've had this conversation before.
Right.
You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Yeah.
I don't have to, right, because I don't want to say, oh, Poppy did this and Poppy is a great father, and you underneath your breath, to y'all, he was. You see what I'm saying? Like, so I don't have to walk on eggshells. I don't have to tiptoe around the conversation. We agree to say, okay, we both have a different relationship with him, but those relationships are special. They're special. They're special. They're
Yeah.
special.
And it's crazy because we were talking after his funeral, and I guess a lot of memories were kind of suppressed because of the anger I had. But then when we started talking, I'm like, I remembered a lot more than I actually thought I did. You know what I mean? Because I remember, because it took me 2 times to get my license. The first time
Mm-hmm.
he actually took me, and it was funny because, and that's the time I failed, obviously, because I think his car was too big for me or something, because I messed up on parallel parking. So you walk back in there, he's sitting right there, and they walked in, and I was like, all right, we can go. He was like, boy, you ain't got your license. I messed up parallel parking, but that's something that I had completely forgotten about. So there were certain memories that were there, but I guess because of the anger, a lot of those things were actually suppressed. And I think Shalana mentioned it earlier, breaking generational curses,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the Black community, man, because these are conversations that everything was on the, like, we the generation that came before us, they didn't speak on a lot, and they pretty much hid a lot of things. Like, it was kind of like the elephant in the room. Like, they just didn't talk about it. They're like, we know it happened, but we just not going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the key thing for us is that you have to discuss these things, because
Right.
had you and I never had that conversation, there's no telling where our relationship would have been right now. But it's about giving people that outlet and reassuring people that it's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel the emotion. You know what I mean? And I think
Right.
that was really the biggest thing, because when we were growing up, man, we weren't allowed to show emotion like that.
Nope.
Especially little boys. Like, nah, you got to be a man, and don't cry. Stop being a punk. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. But I think it's just the opposite. I think it takes an even stronger person to show that emotion and to be vulnerable, and to really let people. And even with something like this, it's maybe a lot of people viewing, they don't really know our entire story. They just they may have thought you and I had just gotten close when Pop passed away, or when he went up there. But
Mm-hmm.
this is a relationship that took years and years to really build. You know what I mean? And it's not this fly by night type of deal. But this is, I mean, I'm so grateful and so thankful for it, because I'm just, as a man, I'm in a much better place now than I've been ever. Like a lot of things that bothered me, like, they don't bother me now. You know what I mean? Because I'm secure in who I am as a person. Where there were a lot of insecurities before, but understanding where I come from and who I am, certainly lent to that. And we talked about the father wound earlier, in terms of how not having an active fatherly presence in the home affects you. I felt that, and thank God I had my brother, I had older cousins and uncles and things like that. So I was, I had people in my corner, but there's nothing like having that one person who is, like having as you and your father. Is that the dog?
Yes. Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's our dog.
Yeah. Guard dog. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but again, But when I tell you that I'm extremely appreciative, to not really just not to you, but all your kids, especially Justice. And I say that because like I wouldn't have did what she did. Like she reached out to me, I reached out to her. You know what I mean? She was like, "What's your number?" So I sent her my number, and ever since then we've been thick as thieves. You know what I mean? So just and those are the relationships I want to continue building, because you need to know your family. You need to know where you come from, and this is just a legacy that I want to leave them after we're long gone.
Right. And because once I began to, like, tell them about you, and we really got to know you, they wanted to know more. They said, okay, so Uncle Hook is Pop's son. So where does he fall in line at? And they want to know that, and they want to know, about your family and about your sisters and who you grew up with. So I was like, well, this is the perfect time for them
Mhm.
to know. But for them to know, because like you said, my cousin Val didn't know. She just said it's a boy walking through Uncle T yard that looks just like him. Like, okay. And we laughed about that, but she was like, because no one didn't tell her. And then she said, she went in the house and she said, listen, there's a boy that walked through the yard that looks like Uncle T. And that's when they said, well, yeah, T got a son.
And
So it's like,
that must have been around the time when because I used to walk by Rosa house all the time, and Chubb, Ani, and Mutri would be in the yard. They go on the
mhm,
T son, like,
right,
but it's that. But again, those are memories that I remember. Like Jamie and I've always been cool. Like I've known Jamie for like years, and I think he was the first one of my daddy's nephews that actually got to meet and really got to know. But then after I started meeting everybody, I'm like, you know what? I really need to get to know my dad's side of the family. Um,
mhm,
and obviously, because I know that we're planning trips and stuff now, and those are things I'm really looking forward to because I do really want to know more. Obviously, everybody knows how close my mom's side of the family is, but my dad's side of the family just as big. So,
right,
these are individuals who I want to get to know more about myself.
right. And like you said, that's what it's about. Just really getting to know where we come from, what we have in common, and what we're doing. Because I'm telling you, this what we're doing now, like we're just really preparing our kids and showing them and teaching them that, what, with love, you can conquer anything. As long as you have pure love, you can overcome anything. You can overcome the hurt. You can overcome depression. Rejection is so much more. And it's not that we're making an excuse, but we're just walking and trying to live in our truth and who we are and what makes Hook Hook and what makes Cold Cold, and our other siblings. We just want to walk in that, and everybody have a piece to the puzzle. You see, everybody have a piece to the puzzle that's leaving for Pop's legacy. Everybody have a piece. And it's how we're using our pieces and we're putting our pieces together to make it a more beautiful, even bigger puzzle for our children to fulfill.
Absolutely. And and that's why I'm so, like I said, God works in mysterious ways, and He was preparing us for the moment when Pop would no longer be here. You know what I'm saying? Uh, thank God, um, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But thank God that I was there when we went to Allendale. You know what I mean? All of that is, I was meant to be there for you guys at that time. And the thing is, I enjoy it because I said that thing that's just getting to talk to all your kids and really just have conversations, letting them know a little bit about who I am, me learning more about them and what they have going on. These are all things that I need, and really just spending time with like my aunts and uncles down there too, like because I
Yeah.
never. Like for an extended period of time, like I've never really had a conversation, but it was great. It was fun, and like I'm just in so much better place now. It's crazy because when when Pop passed, there were a lot of emotions swirling around. I'm like, okay, because I knew I was gonna have to go down, and I knew I was gonna have to be around his side of the family. I had met a lot of them, but like I hadn't met everybody, and just really getting this to sit with them and spend that amount of time with them, and it's like, wow, I've been missing out on this, for like just because when we talk about me not being whole, that's because there was a whole nother side of me that I just didn't know anything about. So
Mhm.
even though it was a sad occasion, it was still good just listening to the memories that they had of him, and just you know just listening to, because me learning more about him, like who he was, because obviously because he didn't necessarily do certain things for me, like I had a certain impression of him, like
Mhm.
it wasn't necessarily a good one. And I say that because I knew he was a good father, because he was a good father to you. He just not wasn't necessarily one to me. So I never said, he's a sorry daddy. Now I knew that wasn't the case. So I knew it had to be a little bit more. And because I didn't know, because we never had that conversation, like I didn't know why. You know what I mean? But again, growing up now, I mean, given how I was conceived, I think it's a little easier for me to not understand why it's just not it's just not that simple.
Right. And my goodness, like we need to do a play, like for real. We definitely need to do a play because everything that you just said, Hook, can you imagine how many people that you're helping? I don't know, did I lose you, Hook? Let's see. Okay, he's coming back. Okay, I thought I lost you.
I thought Facebook was stripping again. Now we good.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, like, where we are now is where we're going to continue to heal and to have these open dialogues so it can help and encourage other people that's in our situation, because it's definitely healing that needs to take place. And
Hmm.
as you know, even now, it's almost 2 months since Poppy's passed, and for me, it seemed like it just passed. So it's like it's hard, and I know everyone that lost a loved one, but it's so hard because I still want him. I still miss him. I still look for him to walk up the steps. You know, I still look for him in his favorite chair. So it's a healing process, and I'm so grateful for you. You said earlier that you're grateful for me, but I'm so grateful for you because you're helping me. And from the day Pop took his last breath, you have been helping me. South Carolina, I don't know what I would have did if you were not there. Like you was just there. You have no idea. Just your presence and your love and just being there to help me. It meant so much. It meant so much. I've never seen you in that role, but for me, seeing you in that role, the respect, I love you, always loved you as my brother, but the respect just went to a different level because I saw you as me and my girls protector when I couldn't be there to protect. I saw that in you, and I thank God for you as my brother because I couldn't did it without you. I couldn't do it without you. It couldn't have been done. And I know why you were there, you know. So I'm grateful for you and I love you. And thank you for helping me during this healing process.
And I think that people need to realize, and people need to understand that it's about controlling the controllables. It's about controlling your actions, and the way you move, because you know um, we aren't you know just kids in general, people in general, like we have no bearing, we have no control over how we come into this world or who our parents are, who our family is. Those are not choices that we make. Those are situations that we're born into. It's about how we manage these earthly relationships. Like I said, just being angry and being mad and just saying, I ain't gonna know if he ain't did nothing. I mean that would have been the easy route. You know what I'm saying? Like I could have easily done that, but I'm like, no. I'm like, regardless of what Pop Pop and our relationship was, like without him, there is no me. If there's no Cleveland, there would have been no Hook. So even for that alone, I'm thankful. I'm forever grateful. You know what I mean? Like I am who I am because he's my dad. And I think that's what I had to understand, because this, people do or don't do things for a variety of different reasons, but I can't be responsible. I'm not going to get into heaven based on how people treat me. I'm going to get into heaven about how I treat people. Um, Especially family, because like Monica said earlier, I don't do half anything. That's not who I am. That's not how I roll. Like either I'm with you or I'm not. And trust me, if I'm not with you, you know, like you'll truly understand. But hearing Kai talk about how he had to do
Oh Lord.
Kyle, what's up, boy? This here guy talk about what he had to endure. That to me that meant so much. Primarily because like he's a young man, but he had to take on that role. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for y'all, for everything that y'all did for Pop at the time that he was actually here. And the last 3 years of his life, you guys made that. You made him. I could just tell just by looking at the videos and stuff. He was incredibly happy, and I know you. I know you guys are gonna miss him, especially with him being right there, being in the house with y'all. It's him asking for, y'all ain't got to worry about him asking for a burger anymore. So burger,
Yep,
but
burger.
I
Definitely
know.
miss that, right, Kai? Definitely miss him asking for a burger every single day. Miss him walking through the house. Miss him calling my name. Missing him saying Pat. Even when, like you were saying, like, um, because when I made the decision just to, once he became ill and taking care of him, you know, and I said to, to my young adults, kids, I said, no, we're going to do this. And they were all in agreement, with taking care of him. Like you said, Kai was like, oh my, to see him in action. I shared that private video with you, just to see him in action. I'm like, wow, like the level of love, because that takes love. Like
Yeah.
that takes
Love
love.
is an action word.
Yeah,
Like you can. I mean, obviously, you want people to tell you that they love you or whatnot, but you really experience love by just the actions and the way that the things that people do for you, especially when you can't do for yourself. I think that's really when you truly understand, because this like you know anybody nobody can say anything to you or your kids about anything, primarily because y'all walked the walk. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all did exactly what y'all had to do. And like a lot of people, they talk about certain things, but they ain't about that action. You know what I'm saying? Like you might, because you have some type of relationship with certain people, when they really need you, like it's when everything's going great in your life, it's easy for people to show how much they love you. But when they can't really do for themselves, that's when you really show people who you really are.
definitely. Definitely. And like you said, love, man. Love conquers all. Love heals all. And that's what we have. And that's what we're building upon. That's what we're building upon. And like I said, when I came down a couple of weeks ago and just really able just to talk with Zoe, and we sat there, and have that conversation, and just saying, okay, I'll be back, like I look forward to those moments, I look forward to those moments with us.
Oh
Because
yeah,
it's
definitely. Because it's you have to think outside yourself, because I think one thing that we do as a people is we get so wrapped up in how we feel and our emotions, but it's about how we treat the people outside of ourselves. And I think that's you know and I know I keep going back to this, but it does mean a lot, primarily because thank you for giving me that peace of mind to say how I felt. And and I know I said a lot of things. You know, I know, I was very, very emotional and very, and I'm mostly a very even keeled person, but at that point, like, I kind of just didn't lash out, but it's like I had to, okay, this is how I felt, you know what I mean? So, but for you and you sat there and listened, like, you know what I'm saying? You didn't interrupt me. You sat there. Like, you know what I mean? And that meant
And
so
that-
much.
Mhm.
And for me to be able to get that out and, say how I felt, like, after that conversation, Cole, like, I think that was, we talk about life changing moments, that truly was, because it's like the weight of the world. Even though I didn't have an opportunity to say it to him, saying it to you, because obviously your experiences with him was one of was fond and was of love, and you got the in terms of parenting, you got the lion's share of that. But for me to be able to relay that information to you, like, that meant a whole lot. And I'm like, was that too much? And you were like, no, that's how you feel. Like, yeah, man, like, yeah.
And I couldn't deny you of that. Like it would have been selfish of me to deny you of your feelings. It would have been selfish. It would have been selfish. And everything that you and I talked about came right downstairs. Poppy, I talked to Hook. Let me tell you what he said. Like I shared with him everything. Like there was no limitations. There was no secrets when it came to him. He knew everything about me. That's why I love him so much, because I can always go to him. And I was like, oh, tell me about you and Miss Blassie. I would have these conversations with him. Like for him, everything was an open book. And that's why it was so easy for me to go to him. Even when I was just a little girl, I could go to him about anything. So I knew what this meant to you. So I wanted him to talk about it. I wanted to hear what he had to say. So I felt as though, even though you didn't have that conversation with him, but I relayed to you what was said and how he responded. So, you know, it was like, okay, we're getting somewhere now. We're making progress. And I would say, oh, Pop, Hook and I are doing this together. Well, that's good, Cole. Yeah, this is what we're doing. That was his response. That's good, Cole. Okay, Daryl. Yeah, you talking about Daryl. Yeah, Pop, Daryl. So, I mean, he knew about our relationship way before he passed us.
Mhm.
He knew about that, and he loved that. He wanted that, and he was proud of that. So that lets me know that I know what we're doing and what we're continuing doing is pleasing, not just with Pop, but in God's eyesight, because we're loving each other, Hook. And like you said, at his homegoing, we're putting away malice, we're putting away our differences, and we're coming together and we're moving forward. Because if we don't address these issues now, all they're going to do is just foster and foster and foster and foster inside of us. And then there will be no healing. There will be no forgiveness. There will be no, oh, well, that's just my brother. Or, well, Zoe, oh, yeah, that's my brother's daughter. No, that's my niece.
Right. Facts.
That's my niece. It's not just
Right.
my brother's daughter. That's my
Right.
niece. That's my
Exactly.
niece. That's my
Right.
niece.
And I think that this is, and this is really, where and this is really why I wanted to come on and let people kind of hear our story, because there's nothing conventional about it. You know what I mean? So it's something that has, taken years to obviously get here. Just going from two kids who kind of looked at each other, kind of like, what are you doing over here? What are you doing over here? You know what I mean? So, but going from that to where we are now, and I've been blessed, just with the people that I have in my life now, and you guys have simply just added to that, because, like I said, I'm in a completely different place than I was a few years back. Um, And
I mean to cut you off, but you literally are, because I admire your growth. Like, because from our first conversation and till now, like I see your growth. You
mm,
know, as a man, as a son, as a husband, like I see your growth, even overcoming everything that you've been through. You
mhm,
know, your feelings, and not trying to, like you said earlier, you said sometimes, you know, the world will tell us, or, you know, you don't show your feelings, you suppress your feelings. But when you suppress your feelings, those feelings tend to eat at you, you know, and you're focusing on, or you're operating in, oh, I'm fine, but really you're not really fine.
mm.
So seeing your growth as my brother, who I talked to a couple of years ago, honored. I'm honored that we can have such raw conversations, and at the end of the day, get up from the table and be like, "That's my brother. I love him. That's my
Yeah.
sister. I love her." You know, like we're honest with each other. I respect your feelings. Always did. Always will respect your feelings, because
Yeah.
that's what makes Hook Hook.
And that's, you have to, you actually, and this is, it's like, I'm emotional now because like it's a sense of relief. You know what I mean? Like, going from where I was, just being angry, being resentful, being mad. You know what I mean? Just not really knowing why. Because like, and other people in my family would tell you, like, growing up, I had a quick fuse. Like, I get mad for anything, just not even understanding why. But now, because, and that's because I had a lot of healing that I had to go through, a lot of things that I actually had to do. Um, and I'm certainly glad that we are now able to have this conversation and really share this with people, because I
Yeah,
think people need to hear that it's like, no matter what it is, you can heal from it, because we aren't the only siblings out there who share a single parent. So there are a lot of people who do that, and because and I hate, because I've heard people say that, oh, that's my daddy daughter, oh, that's my mama
mhm.
daughter, they ain't even. Nah, it's like, yo, that's your sister, that's your brother. Like,
Okay.
y'all should have that relationship, and y'all should get to know each other kids. And I know, it's maybe the pot calling the kettle black right now, and I know our situation is not, we have been able to heal, but then I just want to encourage anybody out there who are doing funny talking about anything. Yeah, I used to get mad all the time. So but I just want to encourage people that they can, no matter what your situation is, you have full control over how that story continues and how it ends. It doesn't matter how it starts. It doesn't matter what you're going through. You also have, to understand that, we, you can't control how you came into the world, but you can damn
Mhm.
sure control what you do while you're here.
Exactly. And everybody's story is different.
Mhm.
Everybody's relationship is different. It doesn't mean that you were loved less. It doesn't mean that this person was loved more. It's that what are you going to do with this story? How are you going to end your story? You know, for your children, or for how, what are you going to do with your story? Because you have the power to create your own happy ending, and that's what Hook and I. That's what we're doing. We're going to create our own happy ending. We got to start from our parents, our dad. So what are we going to do with it now? What legacy are we going to live behind? You know what I'm saying? What legacy are we going to leave behind? You know, Hook, you and I, we were talking, just about, to be honest, we were talking about medical issues when Pop got sick. And you know what I'm saying? We was like, well, okay, this is something that we should get checked for, or should we get checked for that? Remember we had that conversation a while back? There's something that, and when we realized how much similarities that we have, and I was like, well, Hope, maybe we should, because if we're going through this now, maybe we should, just to see. We both joke and say, "Oh, we don't want to know, we don't want to know." But as Pop started to decline, I really thought about that. I was like, okay, well, maybe me and Hope should really, like you said, you work out, you do what you do, but it's just so much that's tied into that. And sometimes we allow anger and not speaking to each other just come in and just disrupt so much, to where we can start the healing process and get to learn more. about each other and what each other is going through, because you just never know. You never know. Like I said, Hook and I have so much in common. You cannot tell me, even though I know we were not raised in the same home, but it's scary. Like, just as I call him and be like, "What are you doing?" And she'd be like, "No way, Mom, come and see what Uncle Hook." Like, we literally be doing the exact same thing. Like, seriously, and how we raise our children. Like, when you were sharing with me about with you and Zoe, I'm like, I'm the same way with my kids. Well, now Ayana, since she's the youngest one, so I was like, wow, like, man, like it's amazing. It's amazing how much you have in common, regardless of different homes, how you grew up. It's amazing because that gene is there. You know what I'm saying? It's there.
Yeah, because like we said with Zoe and Ayana with their allergies, like it's
Yeah.
crazy because they share a lot of the same things, and I think that you have to really you have to learn where you come from, because just in terms of like whether it's health issues or psychological issues, whatever the issue, whatever it is, like you can really understand and fix a lot of the things if where some of those things may have generated from. And people will tell you, or people will try to tell you, how you should feel or how you should react, or how you have to deal with stuff in your own way and on your own time. And there was nothing, I'm glad that we can like have this conversation now, but there's nothing easy about anything that we've gone through, whether it's the conversations we've had, um, whether it's about anything that anything that happened in Allendale while we were there. Just there's nothing easy about any of that. And we have a story to tell, and we have a platform, and we have a lot of things that we want to do regarding this, because we do understand that a lot of people can benefit from what we've endured and what we've gone through. So obviously, this is not going to be the last time that we'll discuss this, primarily because we truly believe that in healing, and we do know that we can help a lot of people with just telling our story, so that they can understand that it is possible to create something beautiful from no matter how strenuous it was,
Yeah.
growing up. So,
And so, we can, since we're being open and honest now, and we've grown, you just said in front of your followers that you've grown and I've grown, so I'm gonna take all that stuff you said about Poppy, I'm gonna take, I ain't gonna come just joking, because we grown now. So, that took a lot for me to sit and hear you, but you know what? I got you. When I see you, I got you. No, I'm just.
but and I say that because I know it was, and I think that's one thing I always feared. I'm like, I'm like, 'cause I'm like, she don't even understand, because she don't. I'm like, she don't know how I felt when he passed by my house, and they just look at me like I ain't even there, and like
Right.
I'm pissed. I'm angry at this point. So I think when we finally talked about it, all those emotions came up, which is why I became so animated with it. I'm like, and that was the pain, but you sat there and you're like, okay, okay, okay. And then like you might have been boiling on the inside. If you did, I wouldn't know.
No,
But like,
I came downstairs because Pop was sitting down, and I came downstairs and I was looking at him. He said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I'm trying to find that man that Hook just described." Because we were just, and he would just look at me and he would be like, "Girl, you crazy," And I would say, "Poppy," I would say, "You love her?" "Of course I do, Cole." I love talking in his voice, but but like I said, all that for us was just healing, Hook, because if you wouldn't have never shared that with me, even though I felt that you felt some type of way, and I knew it probably had to been deep, but for you to go that deep with me, that was the foundation to let me know that, okay, this is somebody that my brother, like, he's being open and honest. And when you're open and honest, nothing is hidden, nothing can remain broken, nothing can stay silent, and healing comes out full force. And it's a process, and it's going to take time, but man, I mean, When you just released everything, it was like, wow, okay. Because that's what happens. Because so many times we bury those feelings and we just sweep it under a rug and we just bury it. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. And we don't expect for those feelings to come back, or that situation to arise. But just what? Everything that's buried, everything has to come to the light in order for it to grow. When we plant a seed in the ground, it needs watering. It needs watering. It needs sunlight. So for us, by you're just really expressing your feelings, and basically you was just breaking ground. You was breaking ground. That seed, you was just breaking ground because you're like, no, I'm going to uproot this because you got to get it out. You got to get it out, not just for yourself, but like you said, you was short tempered, with your children and me over here. I'm like, okay, well, I can't identify with him. But it was like, oh, I guess I can. I can identify with him. I can, because I didn't see Pop 24/7. We didn't live. Remember, I shared that with you. I said, but look, we didn't live in the same house either with Pop. And that's when you was like, well, tell me more. You know what I'm saying? So now you're able to, now that you begin to share and I was beginning to share, I was like, okay, all right. I seen some things too growing up. And that's when we really was like, okay, but we're going to put that in the play form. You know what I'm saying? Because they ain't going to believe this. They can't take all this today.
No, but this, and this is why, I want to continue because, like I said, we have a lot of things, a lot of projects, a lot of things that we want to work on. And I think this is definitely a great start. So before we peel out, like, what are your, what are your final thoughts? Like, like, what do you want people to take away from the conversation? Have you learned anything different from us having this conversation? What are your overall thoughts about everything we just talked about?
Healing. I want people, like, if you know that if you have siblings that you share the same parent and you different households, maybe you should be the first to reach out, send them a text or inbox them, you know, let them know that, okay, the situation, and work on that, work on healing, because life is so short. Like, life is, and I know we say that all the time, like when somebody passes away, we'd be like, oh, wow, life is so short. But then 3 days later, we go back to the norm. So if you have a sibling that you need to reach out to, ask for forgiveness and build a relationship, build that. It's going to take time, and be open to listen and meet them in the middle, because that's what Hook and I had to do. It wasn't easy because, like I said, we grew up in different households, and hearing him sharing his feelings about my father, our father, I sat there and I listened because he deserved that. He needed to express how he felt, and I needed to express how I felt. So reach out to your siblings, or it doesn't have to be siblings. It can be a family member, but just try to heal those and meet each other in the middle. Give everybody the ample enough opportunity to speak and to talk, because everybody has a story, and your side isn't no more truthful than the other person's side.
Mhm. Right.
Just, you know what I'm saying? So just be honest, because if you're not honest, you don't have to yell. You don't have to say, well, he did this for me or he didn't do that for me, And when you have those private conversations, keep them private until you're ready to share, because healing doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. And I like the conversations that Cole and I've shared. I've never told anybody about those conversations. And I think this is the first time that even the people who are closest to me even understood exactly, what we went through and what we endured. And I guess the biggest thing for me and the biggest takeaway, the thing I want you guys to take away from this is like, and I think Tracy made a comment earlier. She's like, it's not as simple. You're right. It's not, but it's not easy, but it doesn't have to be hard either. So you have to be willing to have that conversation, and you have to be okay. Like, if you don't get the response that you're looking for, or if you don't get, if people don't, approach it the way that you think they should, you have to be okay with that too. Like, everybody's not going to see things the same way. Just thank God that Cole and I have similar personalities, and we were able to have the conversation. Everybody's story is different. But what I can tell you, once people are gone and once that casket closes, there's no going back. There's nothing that, like, I'll forever have to, the rest of my life I have to be like, I wish that he and I would have at least, even though we made our peace, I wish we would have had that conversation. I wish, I know Cole told him, but I wish I could have told him that this is how you made me feel. This is, what I needed from you, but you didn't get that to me. But I'll never have that. But I have something better. I have my sister, I have my nieces, I have my nephew, I have my family, through him. And I think that, if nothing else, he's already given me the two greatest gifts. That's one, my life. Obviously, I'm forever, without him. There is no me. So I'm thankful for that. But also, he gave me Cole and her kids. So like when I tell you guys I'm at peace, like I am in a much better place now than I've ever been in my life. A lot of things that bother me. And it's crazy how one thing can shape so many of your different emotions. Like, I don't get angry anymore. I don't get mad. I'm at peace. Like, I don't care what people think. You know what I mean? Like, it's you either like me or you don't like me. I mean, I really don't give a shit. But that's something that I had to learn over time. It wasn't always that way, primarily because I wasn't whole. I felt rejection. I felt all these different emotions. But now I'm in a completely different space. And obviously I have Pop and I have you to thank for that, Cole. So I appreciate that. But
Yeah.
this one, yeah, go ahead.
No, I appreciate you. Like I said, I appreciate you, and knowing that it can be done if you put in work.
Mhm.
This is what I remember having a conversation with Pop, and I was saying, there's a story there
Mhm.
with, and I'm just going to say your mom because I'm talking to you, not our other siblings, but there's a story there with Pop and your mom because you're here. You
Mhm.
see what I'm saying? So I don't have the power, nor will I try to walk in the power of trying to end that story because there was a story there because the product is you. So knowing that there was a story there and there's history there and there was love there, learning to pick up the pieces from that and move forward with it. You see what I'm saying? I can't salvage that story. I would never try. But there was a story there between Pop and your mom. There's
Mhm.
a beautiful story there that created such a beautiful, handsome human being, and it's you. No matter how many times people try to wash it away, no matter how many times people try to say, oh, well, it was just this. Oh, well, no, it was something.
Mhm.
It was something. I remember my aunt T Thelma because you know me, Hook. I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna ask questions. And I asked my aunt, and she was like, "No." She said T and Blossom used to ride all the time in the car. I was like, "What? Tell me more." Because there's a story there.
Mhm.
There's a story there. So who am I? Just because I was a daddy's girl, just because of to say that, oh well, that story never existed. No, there was a beautiful story there. There's you. It's a beautiful story with Derek and his mom. God bless her soul. She passed away. There's a beautiful story there with him and Rose. There's my mom. There's a beautiful story there. So what we can do is take the power that we have
Absolutely.
and create more healthier, uh, beautiful relationships through our children. Because my kids love you. Uncle Hooky, Uncle Hooky, Uncle Hooky, Uncle Hooky is not, I mean, it's all the time. They know no matter what, they know, oh, we can call Uncle Hook. He gonna get it done. He's gonna be there for us. So I'm excited
Absolutely. And this
because
is this is really going to be a continuation because there are a lot of because we're still, there are bits and pieces of the story that we're still piecing together ourselves. So these are all things that we want to learn, and we do want to share. We want to share with you guys primarily because one, we think that there's a lot that we think our story, well, we think a lot of people can learn from that. And two, I think people need to understand that no matter what your situation is, you can heal, you can grow, and it's okay to have those difficult conversations. So when we piece those things together, you guys will be hearing from us soon, so that we can definitely share. So again, this was great, Cole. I love you. Thank you so
I
much
love you
for
more.
thank you so much for coming on. And for the audience, thank you guys for viewing. If you have any questions for Cole or myself, um, let us know. Obviously, we'll be happy to share with you guys and help in any way we can. But be on the lookout because we'll be sharing some more things coming down the pipeline. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Cole, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.